Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Budget Committee meeting of Thursday, May 14th. Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so the first item on our agenda is to appoint a chair and a vice chair. And we will start with, chair nominations. I have a nomination. Okay, I'd like to nominate Sharon Clyde as chair. There's a second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? And Sharon, willing to do that? Okay, thank you. And then we will take nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Richard Bertolotti.
Okay, okay. And Lisa, did you have a nomination?
I have a nomination to nominate Barb Knopf, vice chair.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go roll call vote on this. And your choices are Richard or Barb,
So we're gonna do one at a time.
one at a time, and then we'll go with the highest. That's okay with everyone? Okay, Dottie?
I say which one I want.
Yes, Richard Barb. Sharon? Barb. Tim?
Richard.
Deanna?
Richard.
Gary?
Art.
I'm not gonna vote. Barb.
Richard.
Richard, are you voting?
I'll vote for myself.
Well, then you vote for yourself. So what do we got? For a tie?
You're tied.
We're tied. Okay, now I will concede.
There you go. Congratulations.
Okay, Sharon, take it away. On that note, take it away. Okay, let's see if I can remember this.
Okay, so then our first order of business is, well, consideration of the minutes for the March 12th, 26th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And then next we have a public hearing about for the state shared revenues. And we have public comment on the uses of the generated through the Oregon Shared Revenue Program. And staff, do you have a report?
Yes,
Your report before the public budget.
typically I believe the public can comment and then I give my report.
Oh, so we should have public comment, okay.
But there's a public comment and share records.
Remember, this, is there any public comment on the shared revenue from the state?
Is there just general public comment? That's usually how it starts.
No, this is just for the shared revenue.
Just for the, yeah,
Just for the shared revenue. Okay. And nobody else to-
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yes, so state law requires that all cities participating in the state shared revenue program, which includes highway fund, gas taxes, liquor tax, cigarette tax, marijuana tax, and state revenue sharing, which is also liquor tax, conduct a public hearing for the budget committee in order to take public comment on possible uses of the funds. Proposed budget includes estimated revenue from the state shared revenues in the amount of $238,155. Total general fund is $116,000 and total road fund is $122,155. Any questions?
Okay.
I have a question on the attachment that's included. Is there the reason why it only includes the 238,155 and doesn't have a report of the other two portions of the state shared funds?
Which portion?
The document that's the title of the state shared revenue estimates. it only has the 238, 155, but we have a road fund that's separate.
There's attachment C on there.
Oh, it is in there, but I guess, I see 238 split up as two.
Correct, so it's the combination of the two, so.
I thought I said 238 and
Okay.
1.2, one left, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll close the public hearing at this time. We didn't have public comment.
It's number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at it. Should I be doing this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I'll hold up, you know, it's not.
Okay, so we have public comment now. General public comment.
Okay,
Michelle?
and I guess that is the 10 podium or whatever. I'm sure. Right.
Oh, golly, okay.
Yeah. You know, I'm always gonna be quick, so it's cool. Okay, good afternoon. I'm thrilled to see that we have a good number of housing advocates on this budget committee. As most of you know, I'm a working artist, which often has its downside of not being very great with numbers. But luckily I have friends that are. I've been informed that we have a good amount of excess funds this year and we're due to have more even in the next. So hopefully we can keep padding the housing fund for the future of our community and the next generation of stewards. I'm gonna be a nice example. One quick issue I believe Councilor Hammond has already brought to light. Under the housing fund, it uses the terminology affordable housing. While yes, we need affordable housing is needed. We're also in desperate need of what's most commonly referred to as middle housing. In Oregon, affordable housing generally refers to residential units that is specifically target households earning 80% or less of the area median income, aka AMI. By putting the restrictions on these funds, we are limiting ourselves even more by creating large hurdles that aren't completely in the spirit of the comprehensive plan. That encourages disbursement throughout the community, mixed uses in cities' commercial areas, while supplying housing to a diverse ages and incomes. I believe we're capable of doing all of the above, mixed use, affordable, and this middle housing. Just a side note, I don't love the term workforce housing because it implies that your work is connected to the work that is extracted from you. All people deserve housing of all incomes and abilities. I appreciate all of you volunteering your valuable time, especially in the middle of the workday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Anyone on Zoom?
Ready, Neil.
Randy, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Randy Neal, P.O. Box 1092. About 18 months ago, we all finally got to the common understanding that we had a lot of excess funds. And then last year, like 12 months ago, we started getting a better understanding of how much in excess funds we have and what is defined as excess and whatever. And Tim did a great job going through the reserve. You know, we walked away understanding why we have the reserve number that we want to have, plus how much in surplus of both unrestricted and restricted that we have. And last year we talked about, you know, eventually we need to come up with plans to figure out a way to spend that. You know, one of the things we've learned in Tim's pro forma is this year we have even more funds. And then basically looking at the budget document, I've come to the conclusion that next year we're going to have an equal amount of excess funds again. You know, so this is basically, we've already had 6 years of continuing excesses. Next year we'll make 7. Now's the time to really put together a good balanced plan of what do we want to spend this money on. You know, when last year when we talked about reserves, part of it is for business interruption. You know, when the big one hits, you know, we have a year's worth of debt or we have X amount of months of spending, you know, but some of it is a buffer for seasonality and working capital as we need to balance through the year. And Tim's put away 3 months for this and 6 months for that and items like that. A third category is funding deferred maintenance and replacements on some of our capital and buildings. And we've run into some of that this year with the school roof, et cetera. But again, the reserve policy sets aside monies for that. The fourth category, usually for reserves, is accumulating funds to undertake new capital projects and funding our future needs. And basically, this is the bulk of probably what we have all of these funds accumulated for. And now's the time to sit down and make sure we understand, how much do we think we have coming over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What will we spend it on? Is it, how much for housing? How much for Southwind? How much for First Street Bridge? That's planned also needs to be balanced. It needs to, cover the things that are in the near term and tourist improvements and village improvements, as well as the big capital projects that we've undertaken in the last few years. But the other one is we keep ourselves from creating a good plan because we put these budgets together that really sort of fake us out. We put all this money into contingency. It's not really real. We've put $2-3 million away each and every year into contingency saying we need this. We've never used it. It's been $500,000 every year is what we use. The rest goes into, a black hole that appears at the end of the year in the bank balance. We'd be better off saying, we will have $1 million or $1.5 million available to do something towards a future project. So let's stash it away and make sure we're making progress towards those projects. Likewise, as we go through the budgets, no one really knows what the actuals for this year are, so everybody starts budgeting off of last year's budgets. Well, we always come in, we're going to be under budget again this year by probably $2 million. But the budget that just got created basically says, oh, we're going to take, last year's budget and ratchet it up by 5 or 7%. And the reality is we're showing a budget over what we will have spent this year in the 20%, 30%, sometimes even 40%. And again, we're just fooling ourselves. We'd be better off putting together a forecast of what we think we really will spend and then finding the projects that we need to accomplish or start pre-funding other long-term projects that we want to do. I've provided a lot of sort of background information of me going through and looking at the numbers. And then there's also a bunch of miscellaneous things that I'd like to see investigated or I'd like to see fixed or whatever. And I'm going to put a plug in for Shorewood. You all know we did a big credit for Elk Creek. Shorewood didn't have a problem that big, but they still have a pretty big problem. And if they're not coming to us yet because they're draining reserves, my guess is they will sometime in the next couple of years. And we'd be much better off offering them that credit, getting involved with them, making sure we have a housing plan ready, just like
Okay,
Elk
thanks,
Creek.
Randy.
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, you have quite a bit of time now. We did get your notes and we can we probably, all looked at them and take your comments under consideration. Thank you for your time.
No other hands up.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything to the public comment? Okay, we'll post that and we'll go on and Kim will give us our budget listings.
We should get
So
we could bring that.
Karen, well, Bruce is getting ready. I forgot to introduce and welcome our two new members, which I will welcome Dottie and Amber. Yes, to our committee.
Morning. This is my last budget message, and you can be thankful that I'm utilizing my prerogative to keep it short. City's in excellent shape in terms of funding and the quality of the staff that make up our team. We face many challenges, but we're not without resources. I would like to comment on the idea that we have too much money. As I look, we have got the, finishing the cruise project. We have housing issues, got the RV park. There's just plenty of challenges and funds that we have, they're not gonna cover that. Unless we drop some projects that we've been talking about for a long time, drop those off. So, I don't intend to apologize to say that, sorry, we collected too much, because I think that the city's gonna find itself in a position of needing funds in order to accomplish things like the First Street Bridge. We're looking, that has probably increased about 9 million, 8 to 9 million. So anyway, finishing up 3 major projects, police station and city hall, both are on time and under budget. We had our grand opening for the police station about a week or 2 ago, and everyone was very well attended. The water supply resiliency project, first 3 phases are complete. 4th phase is the pipe work you see going on around town. Key upcoming projects include Cannon Beach Elementary School renovations and the development in Lake Cruz Park. The long-term use of the RV park. It's interesting that right now we have one concept of improving and making the RV park better for handling the larger RVs, those kind of things. And also, same time trying to make it work for affordable housing. But with that, there's a tremendous amount of utility work and other things that would have to happen for that to occur. And we've got money to start the investigation, but it's nowhere near enough to do the work that would be necessary. The property is currently being considered for operational renovations and or the creation of housing. There's also a public arts initiative. This is being led by the Tourism and Arts Committee. We're recommending staff changes. 3 new staff positions are being recommended. A halftime coordinator for TRT projects and funds. This will be housed in the general fund, and funds will transfer from the TRT funds in the current year. And Tim will be talking more about that later. Full-time position split between public works and the building department to develop and train for eventual replacement for the building official. You just can't go out and hire a building official anymore. There's just not that many of them. In fact, we rent ours out to City of Seaside on a lot of occasions. And the idea, and our guy has been here for a while, and if we were having to go ahead and make a change, we wouldn't be able to find anybody, I don't think. So we decided to grow our own. We have somebody from Public Works that's interested in learning to do it, and over the next year, we're gonna have that person working with Alton and hopefully put ourselves in a good position. And a half-time volunteer coordinator in emergency management. Andy can talk to that quite a bit. We've got a lot of supplies. Those supplies have to be changed out. We have reports that we're working with federal government and with the county government and state government, and trying to go ahead and make sure that we are in line for assistance of various types. And Andy is kind of overstretched with all that going on. So that's the 3rd position. And Tim has done an excellent job in orchestrating the budget process. And we look forward to answering your questions and addressing your issues. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we'll go on to, we're gonna just do the just go quickly over the pro forma. Thanks, Tim, Rankin last year really, pushed me on this, so I think it's a really good exercise. And then, Richard makes sure that I get the, over under and percentages right, which I still got home this afternoon, so. Next year, I'm just gonna, do first, I get the actual estimates right, but then I screw up my formula and put it over. So, the actual, if you look at page 2, the, over under budget, the actual, we are over budget, which is actually positive, is 3.6 million. So our expected ending fund balance in the general fund at 6/30/26 is going to be about 5.7 million. And each of the funds I went through where they start. There's only a couple of funds that we have really where we're having a essentially a loss this year. Those two funds are the recycling fund and wastewater. So those two funds we are kind of upside down. I think the important part is when you go to pages 6 and 7. Page 6 shows what the estimated ending fund balance is by fund and then by type of fund. So discretionary means that accountants by the budget committee has discretion essentially where they can place those funds if they so wish. So pretty much anywhere you want to. Prepared food tax fund has some parameters around it, but it's pretty broad. Then there's the restricted funds, and those have some kind of restriction attached to them, like either tourism related, affordable housing or housing, building, etc. And then lastly, the utility funds. So again, you adopted a reserve policy last September, somewhere in there. And then the estimated fund balance, where your reserve requirement is, and then how much money needed above that reserve requirement. It's on page 6. And then page 7 is how much those funds grew, fund balances grew year over, or projected growing. So pro forma, that has about 2 months left. So that's how much they are projected to grow year over year. Again, 3 funds, building, which we expected and we had planned for that would go down. Recycling fund, mentioned that last year. Hopefully this is a much smaller loss than we had last year. So hopefully that's right with itself. And then of course, wastewater, which I've explained in the past. And then we're correcting, or we are proposing to correct that in the current year. So with that, does anybody have any questions with regards to pro forma?
So then,
Yes.
just to clarify, I think it's at page 6, the $18 million that we have in addition to the reserve requirement. There's about $7.5 million that's discretionary.
Correct.
That the budget committee or the city council can decide to spend on something without a lot of hindrances, and then the 10 million which is restricted is restricted by state law, which we think is some of that's gonna change, but we don't know exactly what's gonna change.
Correct, in some regards, but say for instance, in total restricted, the tourism facility renovation fund, 3.5 million. That right now is earmarked for NACUS, things like that, but yeah, tourism restricted, which is TRT funds. So that has the new 4148, which we're not doing really anything till 27-28 with regards to. Some of that will also be probably used for the NACUS project. Building fund, of course, is very, very restricted. Affordable housing again, our housing fund is pretty restricted. And then roads, of course, is also very restricted.
So the question that I have on those restricted funds, are the adjustments in state law going to be retroactive to the money that we have in the reserves?
My understanding is that is correct. So the fund balances are subject to the 50-50 split is my
So
understanding.
that would free up next January or next January?
It frees up in January of 27, but my proposal is that we don't do anything with regard to those funds till 27-28.
Okay. So, but we think it will come back next year sometime.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
we've got some work to do, I think, this year too.
And that is, the split will go all the way back, or will it only go back to the section of the passing point?
My understanding is that the fund balances would go back, would be in memoriam,
Okay.
but all the money, the new monies would be just going forward. So that's my understanding. And again, we don't know what the county is gonna do. We have some agreements. We're close to the agreement with the chamber. You know, what's gonna happen with NICU. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air. So that's why our proposal is nothing to be done additional until 27-28.
I just have a quick question that's sort of a follow-up to Richard, and what Dan was asking was, when we're looking on page 6, we're looking at the balance of the reserve amount. And the ideas that we have earmarked funds that are in that column, if you will. What would be the total approximate, not exact, it doesn't have to be to the minute or anything like that, but what would be the approximate of the earmarked funds?
Well, the
Like of
project,
18,
the project for NICUS right now has a maximum,
3.5,
it has a maximum of 6.5.
6, right,
6.5 million, so that would come out of those funds,
okay,
most likely, so that's that. Then if you decide at some point in time that you're gonna spend money out of, for the first street bridge, and to Bruce's point, that's probably, 9 million, so there's, 15,
right,
15 and a half, or. If you end up doing something with regards to the watershed, right, that's also where that kind of comes out of, so those are the things that are decisions that would have to be made with regards to those funds.
okay, thank you.
And a quick question from page 7 on the restricted funds, the tourism related 5.5. That's made up of the ending balances of the 1.5. The ending balance for Tourism and Arts Commission. And the county, or is that county, is there is
The
something
county,
that makes-
the county's fairly large, if you look on page 3, the county is projected to be about, the county PRT fund is projected to be about 2.1 million at the end of this year.
And we don't have any clue about the future of that and the 50-50 split.
We haven't heard anything from the county yet on what they're gonna do with how they're gonna.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that, I'm assuming that would, they're not gonna come and try to take our money, that's, I'm
Right.
sure of that one. But I don't know if on a go forward basis, if they're gonna cut it to 50-50. So I do not know that one.
Sure, could I offer a comment?
You may.
I think this is right around your 2-year anniversary, Tim.
Saturday, 2 years,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Um,
I took a pay cut to take this job, Tim, a significant pay cut.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was pretty significant.
It makes me question some of these numbers even more. But in all seriousness, the progress that you have made in providing clarity to the council and to this committee is outstanding. We're just in a much better position to understand and make policy going forward, given the presentation that you provided in the reserve policy that you implemented last year. I also would like to say, Randy Gill has been invaluable, and we should recognize him as a committee. He has done amazing work. I am an analyst by trade, and I have to take my hat off to Randy for some of the work that he's provided to this committee.
Any other performer questions? Okay. All right, let's go to the budget overview. So we'll get that, and then talk a little general fund, and then I'm gonna bring Chris up. All right. Next slide, there we go. Next one. Next, yeah, there we go. Okay,
Page are we on?
you are on page, so this is just going on the overview, right? So just generally, how did we develop this budget? So we're not on the pages yet, really. So I just wanted to talk, overview, all funds, maximum of 10% contingency. Some funds have less than 10% contingency. The reason for that is they didn't put contingency, make the 10% contingency in those large capital projects which already had contingency built in, not doubling contingency part. We continued transfers both from the TAP and the county TRT to the general fund, covering both the public restrooms and part of HRAP. This year also, we are consolidating all the reserve funds into the fund in which they are originally derived. So that means the water reserve fund is going into the water fund. So then we will see from here on out, all the expenditures with regards to the reserve. All the expenditures with regards to the water fund will be tracked in the water fund. So both personnel, materials and services, capital outlay will all be in the water. So that's from here on out. We're recommending a $1.7 million transfer from the general fund to the wastewater fund. As I mentioned at the Tuesday council meeting, that is both for a large amount of capital projects and then also for some rate relief. So that is the purpose of that. And then, of course, adherence to the adopted reserve policy. So that's what we're shooting for. So that's just the overview. Okay, pages 13 through 15, that is, 13 through 15, this is just the general fund, basically the resources. You'll see that we are up, it's gonna be up about 7.5 million. Big portion of that, of course, is $4.6 million going from the general reserve fund into the general fund, right? So we won't be tracking those separately. That is the big portion of that, plus your beginning fund balance is about $2.3 million projected to start out higher. We are increasing TRTs about 5%, a little more than 5%, et cetera. Everything else is relatively the same. The building maintenance I'm missing it here, but on page 17, the building maintenance program. This is where we just generally do maintenance for City Hall, police station. Two things in here, we increased the janitorial because of the two new buildings, and we've been running hot on our janitorial costs. I also left the number for the food bank and food bank canopy. I realize those numbers really don't have a lot of data behind them currently, right? This was the old plan, but I left them there essentially as placeholders until decisions are made. I didn't want to move them, I didn't want to change them, just left them there. So whenever a decision is made, these can be adjusted at a later point in time. So I just want to make sure that was aware.
So, Tim, that's almost $500,000 that we really don't know that we're gonna spend, but we're gonna place it with that.
When they, at some point in time, there will be a decision made on the food bank. And so right now, yes, that is just a placeholder.
And I asked Mom that, is the food pantry, because they seem to have 300 plus in assets, are they contributing to those numbers, or is this just a city's contribution, or how does that?
Currently, that is just the city's. This is from when we originally had the CDE plan.
Okay.
This was the numbers from that original plan. I did not make any changes, didn't do anything with that. That's all the information I have.
Okay.
Anything else, I believe, is policy and what the council decides to do.
So if the budget gets approved as it sits right now in this particular fund, are we gonna run into an issue if we change numbers substantially by policy, or is that just gonna fall into added contingency?
We would just move contingency to it, and if it became very significant, then we would do a supplemental budget, which there's a couple other things that we may have to do a supplemental budget about going forward, and we'll talk about those in a little bit too. All right, okay, community programs. Here's one of the first errors that I made. I believe I sent it out on page 18. The Cannon Beach Library actually asked for for city's contribution to go up to 25,000 this year. And I only have it in here at 20. So they did have a request for 25,000. Would like to adjust that.
So we're gonna recommend, we're gonna go through all these and then we'll write a recommendation when changes like this.
Okay, that's page 18, then. Next is page 23. This is 23, 24. That's municipal court. There's no operational changes. This year. Expected. Natasha has been a great court clerk. So, and the new automatic ticketing system has been amazing. So our revenue has actually increased quite a bit, so it's making everybody's life a lot easier.
I have a question, you have material services down in the budget on that, is,
Yes.
is that, did we just like wait, I mean, it looks like we
Way over
substantially.
We were
last
way
year.
over budgeted, yeah, so we were trying, we just tried to bring it.
Okay, so we're not expecting actual costs to go down this year, it's just that we just crazy over budgeted.
Yeah,
last year.
we just budgeted too high in previous years.
Alright.
And then on this regard, last one is the non-departmental, which is on page, sorry. On page 38, 39. This here, this is non-departmental, so this is where you will see when Bruce brought up the salary position or the positions, one half of, well, the TRT position, we are putting into, we recommend putting into here. General fund, we're transferring TRT funds in there. And that is because I didn't want to break it out across multiple funds so next year, when we have one TRT fund, then we'll just charge it in that one TRT fund. This year, we just put it in here. And then building official that we are going to be training. One half of that person is here in the general fund, one half is in the building fund. So that's kind of how we will be paying, so I recommend to pay for it in the current year. And then,
Tim,
yes,
I'm not all three buildings.
because they won't be necessarily doing all in the building work. So so it's not gonna have like two full-time FTE they'll have, so they'll be doing, basically, so they'll have other work. So I didn't want to put the full body in there. And then you'll see the big change, there are three big changes in transfers. That's, the transfer to the wastewater fund, a little over 1.7 million. Reduce the transfer to the roads fund from 775 to 700. The reason for that is you will also notice that the roads fund increased by about $300,000. So until there's more projects in the roads fund, we have sufficient income in there with the $700,000 transfer. And then per instructions, when we talked in March, I increased the transfer. Last year, you increased the transfer to the Affordable Housing Fund, Housing Fund. And by the way, it's always been called the Affordable Housing Fund. I think it changed the name. It's always been called them. So last year, we put it 500,000. You asked me to increase it to $1 million at the March meeting. And so that's what we did here. So we increased it another 500,000. So up to $1 million. And what's that?
I'm not sure, maybe it'd be better to ask when we get to that fund, but that million, is that spendable on things like due diligence at the RV park or the housing proposition and due diligence itself? Is that fund spendable on those sorts of things, or is it?
That fund is spendable, however, we did also put aside different monies. So we have money in the affordable housing for Southwind, we have money in the RV park to investigate the RV park, both master plan and affordable housing. And then we have, so those two are already, but yes, so there are restrictions on the construction excise tax, which are listed in that. So you can only spend so much on there. But the funds that you transfer into that housing fund, you can pretty much put in whatever parameters you want on.
Right, talking more detail about that.
Yeah, so Jeff will talk about the affordable housing fund, but we have.
Okay, and then, can I talk about the bridge fund just for a second? We're talking about putting this additional money in. I thought that originally that was all in FEMA money. But we have to match the FEMA money, or why do we have to put city money into the bridge?
We have additional funding that we needed to be able to finish the design. It's my understanding. Chris can talk about it a bit too.
Yeah, I can answer that one real quick. So the FEMA grant that we got for that was a 90% FEMA 10% match. And we're funded up to 60% design. We've requested an additional $140,000 from FEMA in order to finish the design to get the project shovel ready. But in the event that additional request is denied, we put in money in the budget right now to cover us to get to a shovel ready design.
Didn't we, wasn't there a problem with FEMA that they weren't going to fund any of that, or were they questioning whether there was gonna be any funding for Bridge at all?
For the I think for the construction piece of it, we finally received actual grant, the reimbursement from the grant money here just 2 weeks ago.
For the work we've been doing.
So we did get reimbursed.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, great.
We did.
And so, but we don't know what's gonna happen with construction as far as the grant goes.
I think what you're referring to is the BRIC grant, which did, with the new administration that came in, the BRIC grants got frozen for a while, and they, 2 months ago, got reinstated again.
Oh, good, okay.
So April was an opportunity to apply for a BRIC grant. We felt we weren't in the right position in order to apply for it. So they typically will become available each year in that April timeframe, and that would be the idea, is finish the design, whether that's FEMA money or our own money, and then put ourselves in a good position to apply next year in April. But whether that program continues is anyone's guess.
Good, thank you, Chris.
All right, any questions on the general fund part? So that's the broad general fund. Okay, now I'm gonna invite Chris up here. He's a newbie. Be nice to him. And he is gonna start with the Ecola Forest Reserve on page 27.
Hello, nice to meet everyone. I think I know most of you, but if not, my name is Chris Master-Gray. I'm the Public Works Director. I've been here for 6 months, I believe. I don't know if that is a Saturday like yours, you gotta pinpoint it to the exact day. All right, as Tim mentioned, this is my first one, so I've heard that it's customary to give me a couple softballs. I'll start with the Ecola Forest Reserve. This fund is going up next year, as you can see. The big driver on the increase is in the contracted project allowance. We've thrown some dollars in there, as there was a request from some council members to pursue acquiring additional watershed property. So these dollars would cover a consultant to engage with in order to get closer to, getting an NDA signed and pursuing that sale, and also pay for an appraisal of the property that's in question. So that's the big uptick on Ecola Creek.
That's 140.
How much is the consultant?
Consultant right now, we put in there approximately 90 to 100,000. I think that's an overestimate, but that's on the higher end of what we've been told to budget for a consultant. And the appraisal approximately 40.
How come you did put any extra money in for the actual acquisition to start looking towards?
So we did not put in any additional funding for the acquisition because we do not like to have negotiations in public. So this here will help us start the negotiations process, I believe. And once we get to a hard number, then this is where I discussed earlier. This is where we would have we would come back with a supplemental budget. Right, because it's going to be, I'm guessing that it's going to be a significant number, whatever that number you come up with, and then we'd actually have to have a supplemental budget. So then if we put a number in here, then we're having negotiations, so let's
So
not.
I understand, yeah.
The concept is, that's probably one of the points of the city council over the top of their list. That are priorities for the excess funds we have. I mean, because we're sitting on $18 million of funds that we really don't have earmarked. And the Poetry Forest Reserve, I think, is a really important asset to the city. And that land acquisition will put something aside and say, okay, that's one of our top priorities.
Right.
I really think that's an important concept.
And Richard, we're not disagreeing with you. What we're saying is, we do the negotiations, and then once we come up with the number, then the council will do supplemental budget to purchase that. That's what.
Is that because you don't get, is it kind of like wanting to keep your hand close to your vest when
Yes,
you negotiate?
yes.
Okay.
But
I understand that.
that wouldn't preclude like a range or anything like that. I mean, like, for example, if you rolled in the appraisal, you rolled in a consultant, you rolled in a range of what an acquisition, I mean, that wouldn't be giving too much away. You'd be like, okay, we're earmarking 500K.
Well, we
And
can
that-
call it something else.
What was that?
We can call it something else.
Yeah, we can call it something else. I mean, but I just think like you could say the bucket for expansion is X.
But for the expansion to be part of the 18.
Yeah,
You have a commitment, I believe, from the council already to look at this, and that is why you have the due diligence, so.
Okay.
Once we've negotiated the price, then.
okay.
Flipping that around, then, maybe we put $1 million into the acquisition fund and say that's all the money. we got.
Right.
Anybody who can read a financial statement knows that's incorrect, Tim.
You know better.
I'm not the person in that room.
So the idea is, we keep in the back of our minds, if this is a project we wanna do. and we keep that. Well. Okay, so it's in the front of our minds that this is what we wanna do, it's in the back of our minds. If out of that $18 million, we don't spend it all. And we know about how much, so we just let it ride. We're gonna play poker.
Right.
Right?
Right,
That makes sense.
okay, thank you.
Got
Okay, all right, that's page one.
I think we can move on to parking from here. Parks is just a slight increase, from last year. I don't think there's really anything notable that has jumped. This fund was pretty healthy the following year, so we haven't made any, big changes to it.
Go ahead.
I just had a question. So 24-25 actuals, the materials and services was down substantially, and I was having a hard time correlating that, looking back and forth between the pro forma and this. Is 25-26 actuals down in that same way?
What's the buffer?
Yeah,
I do not know at this time, I would have to take a look. I can get back to you.
And mine's sort of on that same note.
no, go ahead.
I guess my same question is like, you know, and there's, I think Tim mentioned it earlier, or Bruce mentioned it somewhere, but I think beautification, civic beautification isn't, like, is that factored into your numbers for parks? Like increasing our, you know, how we maintain our city streets from a beautification perspective, is that part of this?
I think my comment there would be that our parks currently, we have 1.5 full-time employees, really, and that's where I would consider, you know, the beautification part, right? Like, so we really have one full-time individual, AJ, who's a professional landscaper, who's beautifying the city as best as he can, as one person can. Our half-time employee, sort of splits some time between parks and sometimes covers recycling a little bit. And so I guess the indirect answer to your question is there's no line item for that. But if it was something that the budget committee felt could use some improvement or whatever, you could suggest bumping that up to 2 full-time employees. And
Or you don't need to bump it up necessarily to 2 full-time employees, but you could contract out services with our small businesses, that we have a lot of landscape professionals in Cannon Beach. They would probably love to have that business, and you could rotate or do something creative or fun, but it would take the load off hiring FTEs at the city. And it would support local business as well as beautifying our town. That would be an option for the budget, just to put it out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, or hire a high school kid or a college kid. A lot of cities in the summer will hire somebody to work in the parks. you don't maintain it, and that's when you really need the maintenance. So I think really to put some money into that. I heard comments from, from other people about this downtown doesn't look as pretty as it used to, not as clean. I think there's been some people on the public committee that talked about the need to do more weeding and more cleaning up of city-owned flower beds and those kind of things. I think I would certainly support putting some additional money in beautification.
I would
of the
support
city.
that.
I would too.
Do you have an idea of what it would take to, what additional dollars it would take to make an impact?
I don't want to put Tim on the spot, but again, and Public Works is not opposed to having more people on our team helping by any means. So, you know, again, that was kind of our idea, is like, I think the writing has been on the wall in the short time I've been here that we really should be at 2 full-time employees. I don't want to compare ourselves to Seaside, but I believe Seaside has 5 parks employees that are full-time. So that was sort of our idea, and your idea with contracting out, I hadn't thought of that one.
Yeah.
That's certainly a good idea, but yeah, I
We support it.
agree.
We support
Well,
doing
we're
something in
supportive
that
as well.
regard.
So one other question I have is, we talked about in our initial meeting, with budget committee about trails, bridges, parks improvements, including the forest reserve. Do we have, is this the budget that we'd be talking about, if we're gonna do trail maintenance or maintenance up in the Cold Creek Forest Reserve?
If it was a Cold Creek Forest Reserve, I believe that would stay the Cold Creek Forest Reserve. So if there was a project identified in that location in the boundaries, I assume that it would fall into that. But yes, if you were talking about general maintenance of trails, park dusting, things, then it would fall in parks, is my understanding.
So do we have anything in the budget at all for trail maintenance in the Cold Creek Forest Reserve?
Not at this time, it looks like back there,
I
but
didn't see anything.
we have a contracted service, which I think is the Ecola Creek, bank stabilization, that we wanted to do some work there to protect one of our assets. The bridge,
Okay.
yeah, so, to answer your question, no, we don't have
So
any.
the city built a trail about 10 or 12 years ago in the Cold Creek Forest Reserve. Public Works built it, but I don't think it's ever been maintained. And I really think, maybe for some volunteers, but it's never been redrained or rock chip, not chipped with rocks, but there was landscape that we put down, there was wood chips put down. That's pretty much all disappeared. And, I really think that we ought to have something in the budget to maintain that, at least that for now.
That trail's called out in the master plan for the Cold Creek Forest Reserve, and it specifically says what was done is temporary and something more needs to be.
I think that we should get that added into the budget.
Yeah.
I think we should get that added into the budget for this cycle. And get that done, and Eric,
We would contract that out, probably, maintenance, something like that.
I can't speak to who put in the trail to start with, so
It was a road crew.
the roads crew did.
Yeah, they did, and they were really proud of what they did, but it hasn't been updated, and I think that's probably not a good job. I'd like forever about it, it's a contract job, right?
It would be a team effort.
Yeah.
how long is that trail, do we know?
Like 12 years ago or something.
How
But
long?
probably at least.
The length is probably like a mile here. I walked it in the last year. You need to watch it.
Yeah, it's probably a little over.
Yes. So how much would that cost, would be maybe 75 per hour?
What are you talking about though? What, I'm not.
I
know.
Trail.
No, I know that.
Trail maintenance.
Then what kind of improvements exactly, specifically?
So the trail that's there is failing just due to time. It was built on an old road base that didn't have drainage for a trail maintenance.
I've been,
It's got bark chips that are kind of decomposed, so it's just improving that.
like rebark chipping,
Yeah.
is that what you're talking about?
What I think whatever a trail maintenance contractor would say, because it's just putting bark chips on it is again a short-term temporary solution. Maybe it may be worth investing more than just third purchase on it, so.
Okay, so then what? I'm just trying, I wanna know what you're talking about.
Well, that you can get into specifics, but not during the budget, so we could set something aside, so we had an idea of what we wanted to spend that way. And then we could get into specifics once Chris had the opportunity to get some quotes.
Plus, it should be,
But
it should start at
wouldn't
the
be
parks
Chris, right?
committee.
Or-
Yeah, right, but I mean, putting some money in there is fine. But then I think the parks committee should handle
Yeah,
it.
So what if let's say we put $100,000 in city beautification, that's going. And a reasonable number to set aside.
We're putting this into parks.
Who would be giving this money?
Is it right to put it into parks or? the Cold Creek?
Because I'm kind of waiting for this conversation to play out, but, it seems like our parks budget is spent on maintenance. And I think we should be looking at parks improvement. Parks infrastructure, and I would like to see Parks Committee have some money to work with and determine some priorities as far as where those improvements could be. So I think all parks, we should be looking at all parks.
Not just the trails, but all the parks, all the landscaping.
And I agree with that, I think the beautification, putting more money into parks, I would really be in favor of that.
But before.
This is just too amorphous for me, what you're saying. The trail improvements, I'm just not.
Trail maintenance at Aquila State Park, that's it.
Yeah, but that would go
With
through
Forest
parks.
Easter,
That
yeah, that,
would go through parks.
So how much would you like us to put aside? So I think what we're hearing with regards to parks is we need some additional help. And some additional funds is what you would like to recommend. Hearing that correctly?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what if we put like $100,000 in there now? Chris has some time to go back and evaluate whether that's an arbitrary number or something useful to work with, right? And then effect of 100K gets parks X amount to do that would cover Ebola, that would cover beautification or whatever, or not cover. And to be realistic about the ideas that were presented, we're gonna need 300, or we're gonna need only 50K or whatever. I mean, I'm just giving you some parameters, right? That would answer, I think, what everybody's mentioned here and give you some time to come back. But I think it seems like everybody's pretty clear that we want that. But what does it look like to do that?
In parks.
well,
Yes.
so it's what,
Turn to that.
So could you answer that next week? Would that be feasible to come back with a more realistic number?
well,
You know what we did last year was like for the pickleball, because we came back with a plan and then we pulled it out of contingency. So what you could do is you could put some money there and you could come back with a plan, or Parks Committee come back with a plan and we could do the same thing.
That's what I remember saying, we'll put $100,000 into parks, let's give it to the Parks Committee, let's make them think about, you know, if I had another $100,000, what would we do? And I assume they want to come up with some ideas, and maybe it'll be up there, maybe it'll be one of the other parks in town.
Yeah, I wanted
But
$100,000.
and then if, you know, they identify some projects that are popular.
no, it needs to be more.
Why make a start? I mean,
Yeah.
it's. You know, allocate money that's realistic, and 100,000. You know, you can spend that before lunch, I mean, it's.
And we've over budgeted on many things throughout this whole budget, so I think we give parks a couple $100,000 to start with. But going back to the trail maintenance at the Forest Reserve. If we're doing shore stabilization for that contracted service, right, I mean, that's part of the Forest Reserve, so the Forest Reserve is its own little ecosystem there. So that trail maintenance for the Forest Reserve, that budget should stay within its own little ecosystem, not into the Parks Department.
You know, my understanding was that the parks was in charge of making the decisions on what happens in Ecola Creek.
And I think they are, but the budgets are separate, we have two separate budgets, you have the parks budget and then you have the ECFR budget.
Well, I think my understanding was that the Parks Department money to work at the ECFR would come from the Parks budget.
I think this is right. And I think if you read the definition of the ability, Forest Reserve Fund, it only talks about log sales and maintenance. To the Forest Reserve, but not general type activities. And it talks about a calendar review.
These two are both general fund. So you could put the money in parks and we could administratively move it over to the eco park later. Once there's a plan.
If that's good.
So they're both in general fund, so you just move it over.
I'm fine with whatever, it just made more, I mean, because it's its own budget, that's what I was looking at.
But not for,
So we just,
the same.
So if you have two projects, does 200 sound like a reasonable start?
I have no idea, I'm a finance guy, not a parks guy.
I think it's. Wonderful.
It's a good
I
start.
think it's a good start to adjust it, right?
Okay.
Okay.
And like the Parks Committee, and I've got to start validation.
Yeah,
It's killing.
It doesn't sound like Parks Committee says, what should we do if we could? And I would sure like them to have that conversation.
Right, I think they also have things they'd like to do, but don't have money to do, so.
And Chris, if you could compare what the cost of hiring a contract landscaper to do certain things, versus hiring another employee.
I do think one problem with that issue is that we have somebody who's doing the work of a union employee.
Right.
We have some problems,
Oh,
so, yeah,
okay,
so.
yeah, okay, well, then you guys will figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
really glad you're here tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's page 2. So I believe the phrase is strike while the iron is hot. So we talked about $200,000 in parks improvements, right? And so I can come back, we can figure out what that looks like. We haven't handled the additional help part.
And I think, is it improvements and maintenance? I mean, I wouldn't say that the 200 is de novo projects, it's maintenance and improvements.
Yeah.
So we can find a split there between labor and public improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, you.
Well, we
you work out that
need
number.
information to back that up, like, tell us what that looks like, you know, so
Well,
let's.
what split would you think would work?
So do you need more employees?
I believe we're heading in that direction, yeah, especially if we wanna handle like additional park improvements and we're gonna self-perform some of that, like AJ is doing right now.
And you work that in, did you work those additional employees into this budget?
No, that's my point.
There are no additional.
That should not be included in that 200,000, that should be an additional fund, I think,
That was the conversation I wanted to spur.
yeah.
That was really killing.
So that's personal. That's personal services.
Personnel.
Personnel service, yeah,
Personnel services.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So what would that increase be?
What FTE is 100?
No, it would be north of that, it
Yes.
would be, well, it would be a couple hundred, cause right here.
You're 1.5.
Yeah, but you have, there's Parliament Road, so it's probably 120-ish for one FTE, right, that's starting to start out 120, 1 to 1.
Again,
About a half.
I'm not getting greedy, but then you need to start thinking about, okay, does that individual have a vehicle as well? You know, are they riding alongside, or, you know, are they able to tackle?
They get a fast bus.
But you have to think about the other, in all seriousness, the vehicle fuel, again,
Right.
the vehicle, if that's what the desire is, so you can have multiple people tackling multiple areas. You have to think about all the other
But
costs
that's also in a
associated.
different bucket,
It's all in this budget though, in parks.
it would all be in parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's vehicle repair.
Yeah, they would all be into
Rory,
it. So basically,
wouldn't argue with another, half an FTE. For
No.
parks, is that what?
No, I wouldn't argue with another half, but that's difficult with the current situation that we have we have 1.5. And so I'd be hiring for part-time, and I think it's just kind of in general harder to hire for a part-time employee. So
So bump it up to 2 is.
I think bumping up one more full-time employee would be good, which would be.
I'm
just your point.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with that.
Two five would be adding one whole FTE.
One
Yeah.
full FTE.
And Eric, you said something, this is just to think back when we were talking about parks and you were looking at the actuals and then not adding up, it's because of the typo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it should be the 245, 545 on the actual, on the breakout, and it was just copied over from the actual from the 23, 24.
No, there. Well, there we go.
And so adding another full FTE to, public works.
So are we talking parks?
Would we be splitting it between parks and something else? Or are you looking at putting it all?
I would think you put it all in parks, but I think that's more of a workload question for Chris, but I would put it all in parks.
Yeah,
So in budget terms, what are we talking? We talking 350 now?
You're probably in a 4 parts with the 200 that you originally put in the materials and services essentially, plus the cost, you're probably looking at 350.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is 200,000 materials and services and 1 FTE.
Yeah.
Associated stuff. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have we started on the money?
Page 3.
Gotta be thinking out there.
yeah, I did not expect that.
Parking.
Parking, yeah, I don't believe there's much of any changes here in this test.
I have questions. So Midtown and downtown parking lots, the asphalt is in awful terrible shape. Is that road fund or is that parking fund? I said make those repairs.
Good point, I think you could use both, currently the parking lot maintenance code, is that $15,000 is actually half of the town's striking budget, because of the split approximately, so, any patches that would happen at those would come out of the roads. Our pavement
So
preservation.
you should
fund.
hate it, but you're not fixing them, so you're saying.
Well, the roads fund.
Roads fund, road funds, to answer your question, it comes out of the roads fund, out of the pavement preservation fund.
Okay,
So I
so,
would not be opposed to bumping that up.
okay, because like, I really think we need to fix those 2 parking lots. We're in desperate need of fixing those 2 parking lots.
Yes, I believe that specific line item right now, once we get there, I'd like to chat.
Okay, so just a part, this is a road.
Yes, because we've got other areas right now that we have sinkholes and stuff, so.
Naive question, but those are private and it would still come out of the roads fund? I mean, aren't those are private parking lots around by the city, I guess. Is it, well, I just kind of know.
I don't know.
Maybe I just talked myself out of it.
And we put a bunch of general fund money into the roads and all, so.
Thank you for that great explanation.
All right.
You get no more money for parking.
Yep.
I have my question.
I was just wondering, I was like, are we skipping over going to roads or are we talking about parks?
What's that?
I think we're on parking right now. Right. So Eric had a question about the parking lot maintenance, which
Yeah.
actually is half of our striking budget. And any pavement patches that we have comes out of our roads fund.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is public restrooms and litter. There's an increase in janitorial services. This is based on the actual costs. I presented at the last council work session. So they should bring us in line.
And there's an increase in garbage services, all services, so.
Additionally, the trash compactor for the town where all the trash goes was on lease from a company. And we are planning on discontinuing that lease and purchasing our own trash compactor. That's a five yards larger, 25 yards. It's in the same footprint. So that is one add this year.
What, did the lease include maintenance and stuff on that?
It did.
Are we gonna be able to get maintenance on the new purchase thing?
We'll need to, we can find a company that can maintain it. We just were not happy with the lease arrangement and the constant breaking down.
I remember this in either last budget or the budget before, talking about the trash compactor. Is this a relatively new piece of equipment?
Likely recyclings.
The Baylor.
Those are the big Baylor.
On the public restrooms, the supplies. The $60,500 budget. What does that include? Toilet paper and steam.
Correct. Yep, everything that's stored at Lesher.
And I think that, I think one thing that we do need to remember is I think some of these numbers are inflated, in the budget already. But we need to put toilet seats in the women's restroom over here. It's absolutely ludicrous that we don't have toilets.
Completely agree.
I've had more women come into my shop and beg me if they can use my bathroom because this is disgusting. That's embarrassing. So, and I know how much toilet seats cost, and they're not that expensive.
Well, I think that was done because of how the public trashes everything. And so they had to, I mean, we were spending so much on the.
I understand that, the
So, you know,
people that come into our town are guests that support our economy.
and
are
traffic
the reasons. Well, yeah,
And they pay for them too, so
and they pay
if
for it.
they're paying
So-
for a subpar.
Well, I understand, but
And sometimes there's an attitude of something seems wrong, or take it out on the facility. I'd say do the right thing.
No one's here ever traveled.
because I don't think like those people are nice, the trash.
They aren't those people are the people that support our economy.
Well, then
So they are-
is it the locals that are trashing
Don't
it?
call them those people, that's not,
That's.
it's not kind.
It is.
Some people don't, they're to pull up the toilets and break them and.
The majority of the people that come into this town don't do that. And,
No one said it was the
and,
majority.
and there is,
No,
and there is
absolutely.
wear and tear, and there's just normal wear and tear, and when you've got a toilet seat that's being used repeatedly, yes, they're gonna need to be replaced. And unfortunately, people do unkind things, but I think taking toilet seats away from the vast majority of women in the community is absolutely, it's just unkind. It is the most unkind thing I've ever heard of.
Really? Wow. Deanna. We're not talking
can't
about.
explain it.
No, we're not,
I'm
I'm
just-
gonna say what I want to say, whether you like it or
That's
not.
fine.
The fact is that they're not talking about wear and tear on toilet seats and having to replace them. What was brought to us at previous meetings by Public Works actually was that people ripped the toilet seats off of the, stand and smash them and break them. That is what we have experienced. We're not talking about being too cheap to replace a toilet seat due to ordinary wear and tear. That's not the issue at all.
I would like to know how many times that was reported to the city. I would like to see a report on how many times toilet seats were actually broken and thrown across the restroom at these restrooms. I would like to see that report from Public Works,
Maybe we just put the toilet seats on.
or maybe we just put the toilet seats on.
Yeah, I think we need to have toilet seats, and I think that more information would be good.
Yeah, it would be good to have more information, but I remember those reports coming to us, and that was the reason behind it. Between the and you have to put, they're stainless steel, aren't they? The toilets, there's some kind of, so you have to find toilet seats that you could put on a stainless steel toilet, which is not.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, so,
I don't mind having the toilet seats, is not my
yeah,
point that I was making the other. The point was the reason that they are what they are is what I was alluding to.
Sort of convoluted logic to say, because there's bad people in the world, we're not gonna provide good things for our town. I just don't get that. We do the right thing, we take the hit when it goes badly.
So the bottom line is we need to increase the budget for supplies.
Yes.
With the proviso that they buy some toilet seats.
My only ask would be if there's money in there for toilet seats that we identify exactly like which facilities get them, is it wholesale,
Well, I think-
everyone?
I think that Midtown and Tullamore have seats in them, they have toilet seats in them. It's this restroom, that's,
Okay.
Right.
And then,
Doesn't have seats, do they?
oh, I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm not positive.
so maybe two locations.
I thought somebody had said once when they were first put in that it looked like prison. You know, and I get that, it's not attractive for our town, but. You know, I just don't understand.
I understand not having mirrors and stuff like that, I totally
exactly.
understand, that's not safe.
I don't understand people that destroy stuff like that. Especially the bathroom, when you need a bathroom, you need a bathroom.
Well, if you go on I-5 and stop at the rest stops, they do have, stainless steel toilets with stainless steel toilets. There you go.
Is this significant enough to add to the budget, or is it something that Public Works can explore or something?
You know, we can take out the contingent.
I would say that we explore it, see what it is, then we come back. That's what I would recommend.
I think
Come back.
You already gave some FTE left, do a little work for this stuff.
We don't have doors, so this prison toilet, be sitting in the middle of the big room, so let's not make.
So I would just recommend that come back and we'll, whatever that costs, we'll add it at a later time. Once he has more.
You mean next week or?
No, I would just do it later than that. Yeah, a week's probably not enough time.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, where do we go next? We go to the water fund, which is page 63.
So Bruce talked about the major projects, phase 1 and 2 of the water resiliency are completed, phase 3 is nearly complete, we have a little bit of bleed over. For our water reservoir, that's the 1.6 million, 3A, our backbone pipeline project is tracking nicely. We've got 3 million, for the next fiscal year for that one. So those ones will go off. Eastack Heights, 250,000 is what we anticipate invoicing, to complete that project. So a lot of these water resiliency projects are gonna be wrapped up in the early part of next fiscal year, but the expenditures will go on for a little bit. Cause that's how the contractors bill. We do have a new fleet truck in there. We're replacing one of our 2012s, F-250.
And then again, like I said earlier on page 66, you'll notice the water renewal and replacement reserve fund, the 300,000 is just getting transferred over into the water fund. And again, you'll notice all of the capital is being tracked in the water fund.
And so those pages next year, for all the reserve funds just won't exist.
No, they'll still exist because we have to show the actuals, so those will actually 100% go away in do more 3 years.
The
The question about the water pipeline that we're doing now, if I remember correctly, the bid came in substantially below the budget.
That's correct.
So that, do we still have the original budget amounts in here, or do we have the reduced, what will actually cost to complete?
We have this legal, we have the appropriation. So you'll notice on page 64, there's a 4.6 million in loan proceeds.
Yeah.
So those two will end up matching whatever we actually end up
So you
carrying.
reduce them to the actual.
Yeah, so so how far Chris and his team get through June 30th, right? It may not, but we just need the legal authority to be able to, if we have that, we only have $1 million left in that actual contract, that's all that gets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The last two items on this are, there is a back trailer, so that's this is a split for the back trailer, so. This is gonna be split between, water, wastewater and roads. This is gonna be a good item to start to decrease our reliance on contractors, so this is fixing, minor water leaks, that are at shallow depths, we can hydrojet that and then factor it on site in a trailer. And because police is moving out of our public works yard, we have the location and able to back this thing in and keep it out of the weather. So I know that Daryl, Sean, and Christian are very excited about the back trailer. Lastly, for our master plan project, we chose one major one to start there, as was priority in the master plan and for our team, and that's a PLC replacement down at the water treatment.
We talked about water rates, so.
What's that?
We talked about water rates.
Yes, we talked on Tuesday about water rates. Water is projected to go or recommended 3%, wastewater 5%, and stormwater 0%.
And that's what we have in the budget.
That's what we have.
Can I make another proposal with our extra money? I think the citizens of Cannon Beach deserve a dividend with all this money we have. We're looking at about $2 million in water, a little over $2 million in wastewater, and about $500,000 in storm. I'd like to see the city freeze those rates, maybe after this year's increase. But I really think that's a city council decision. I realize it's not a budget decision. But I think we ought to plant that seed that we are sitting on a lot of extra money. That it would cost, if it was 10%, you were gonna lose 10% of the amount. You're looking at about $450,000, which is a pittance. And I really think that the city council should seriously consider paying the citizens of Cannon Beach a dividend and freezing those rates.
I think, past city councils have done that. And then we end up with, having to make a huge increase.
Well,
And so I think it's an effort to not end up in that situation.
and I agree with that.
But Deanna throwing the idea out of some kind of grant fund for, you know, that I think would be a.
And the reason I'm raising this is if you look at Randy Muir's analysis of our revenues, we basically have runaway revenues because we have transit lodging taxes and we have a food tax that continue to grow. The reason they were put in place was the county debt. That debt is fixed, got a flat line, and our revenue grows like this. It's going to continue to grow at exponential numbers. And I think that the citizens of Cannon Beach deserve some benefit of that. We're paying, all of us who eat out in town pay a food tax. The tourists pay most of it, but I think it's something to consider. You know, you guys have to make that decision, but I think it's.
And I would rather take care of people who really need the assistance and now it's subsidized, you know, second homeowners, and.
Yeah, I'm gonna, freeze rates and we did, we're gonna bring back talking about the program, right? Or potential program. One thing that I was thinking about actually, last night, when I was thinking about this meeting, which is my life now. But,
And you're happy.
have you, do you know where Gillum County is? Arlington on the I-84?
Which county?
Gillum County, yeah, where Arlington is. So if you go out to Arlington, there's about 1,800 people out there. And if you look on I-84, every time you see a truck with a giant W on it, that is all of the trash that leaves the metro area and goes to Gilliam County. Right, so that's where all Metro's trash goes. All those trucks carry about 35 tons of trash. Every citizen of Gilliam County, roughly the same population as Cannon Beach, gets property tax rebate every year. So if you own a house in Gilliam County and full-time resident, you actually get a rebate for your property taxes because they generate so much money from the landfill. So one of the thoughts that I had last night is what if you had full-time residents and you gave them some kind of rebate. So you wouldn't, I would not ever freeze the rates, because if you freeze the rates, then you're stuck. You're right, you end up with a 35% rate increase. But what if you're a full-time resident? Something like that. But anyways, that was the thought I had last night, so I'll move on. Right.
Like Alaska permit fund.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So on water and wastewater on here show like 3% increase, 5% increase. The performance seems to show it as a little bit more than that.
On the revenue side, because when I matching up the pro forma and the revenue in the budget are not, the timing of those two things is not ever gonna be the same. So it's, but it'll end up being about 3%. I can adjust the actual revenue numbers, which will just reduce the ending fund balance number. It's not gonna would not actually impact anything, but
So if you reduce them to the 3, it would just reduce that.
it would just reduce the ending fund balance, is what it would do.
So I have two questions in the water fund. Pipe, annual pipe replacement, is that in the water fund? Is there a budget for that?
I believe we would cover that under contractual services or excavation services.
That's
Okay,
that's
so the stuff that's in the master plan, the 2,000, is it 2,600 feet, whatever it is, master plan annual pipe replacements included in that?
Yeah, I can't say that I took exactly what they said we should factor in every year and put it in, but we have.
But we just plan forward.
We have slight increases and it comes out of those two plans.
They show it in the master plan and capital outlay, but that's not the way we do it. We actually show it, yeah.
Alright, and then, the fire hydrant maintenance, like the last item there, $6,000, is that enough for?
It's not. I'm really glad you brought that. I found a contract that we had executed that actually it's closer to 11,000 or 12,000. But Tim told me not to bring it up because it was such a small amount of money that we will just be able to make it work.
See, that's what's scrolling down, it's on 6,000, it's not, didn't to me seem like enough to.
It was until this year. That used to be 6,000 with the Cannon Beach fire. And then now we signed a contract with another contractor that's now 4.
I see. Oh, it does.
Yes.
And that's with our crew helping them. If we don't provide a helper for them, it's higher than that. So
Is that because the fire district doesn't want to do the work, or did we take the work away from them?
the latter is my understanding.
Took the work away from them and paid 2x.
I am just a finance guy.
And I'm new.
It's not our design.
That's correct, we have an executed contract.
I'd like to know why, I'd like to know why we took that away from the fire department. That could be a council conversation, but I wanna know why that happened.
I think we should be doing it for the cheapest we can, but if we have an executed contract for 12,000 and we're putting 6,000, that kind of seems like a situation.
Yeah, that contract, the contractual term came, at June 3rd of this year, so moving forward, I can change that.
But fine, we can investigate why the change to it twice.
Less than, if it's fair, not investigating why we did it, but reaching back out to Cannon Beach and seeing if
If they're interested in retaking up that task.
if that works.
I'll be able to toss and turn a little bit more
That's a
over this
perfect-
idea of a rebate for, a water rebate for full-time residents. One zone, makes second home ownership, a little, expensive, more expensive.
Even if it's.
So it doesn't necessarily, right now, they're incentivized as they pay the minimum, right, so that's,
I don't think they would care. I don't think that's gonna, stop people from wanting second homes.
But-
It's not, but.
but to Richard's point, it seems like that's a much fairer way to do it than just like blanket, you know, freezing the rates or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, I would never recommend freezing the rates, just because you're at some point in time, you'll have a catch up, and that catch up is gonna be huge, and then we saw what happened last year, so I definitely never want to go through that again.
But utility rates are the most interesting patterns, so.
Right, right. So, but if you have a full-time resident, right?
I like that idea.
And
It's a
then,
great idea.
yeah, so.
If somebody else came up with it, I don't know that that's realistic, I would like to learn more.
Okay,
So can I just say something on that, because I think it's a little invisible, is that when we're talking about full-time residents, and we're talking about water utilities specifically, people that are renters in town don't see their water bills, they don't see any rebates, they don't see any adjustments, and there's a lot of people that are full-time renters that fall into that category. So whatever we're talking about in terms of a potential rebate or assistance, that goes to the owner of the property, it doesn't go to the renter. And so I think that we have to be considerate of that when we're thinking about these programs, because it would involve Shorewood, it would involve Elk Creek, it would involve any long-term rental that's not a short-term rental.
Don't we wanna make life easier for the people who are creating housing?
Yeah, I raised my
recommendation. Well, just having, and if they're not doing it.
I had to raise my rate because, yeah. Yeah. In a way, so.
I don't think we should discuss in policy papers or anything. Okay, here's more of a short work session.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wanting it to be, yeah.
okay, wastewater is next, wastewater is next, 69 is 69, 869.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for wastewater, we have a generator upgrade that's been ordered but won't hit until the next fiscal year for the treatment plant. An auto dialer that we need to fix. Portable generator that has gone bad. And then we have some pump station maintenance. I think these projects are really important. We have some younger members on our wastewater team and some legacy members, and I want to make sure that the education and training on how we go about diagnosing a problem, getting a contractor out there, getting a quote, and fixing it. So we've got some good projects lined up there as well. DEQ thermal load is a DEQ project. We're working on one part of it. This is just one aspect that'll continue off into the next fiscal year. We have some money in for CCTV and then a larger chunk of money for basin improvements.
Could you explain what the DEQ project is and also basin improvements, what it does entail?
The thermal load project is a new requirement from DEQ. They've given us 5 years to come into compliance. It has to do in simple terms with the effluent temperature that we discharge into the wetlands. And so one part of this portion of it would actually be to hopefully install a stream gauge on the bridge out there that Ecola comes down under. That way we can measure the flows during different times of year. That takes you into a different equation that you can use in the winter versus the summer on our allowable thermal load. So it pulls us one step closer into coming into compliance. And again, I think we're already well into our first year of that. So this is the next step that's recommended. The basin improvements right now, Windsor, our engineering team, is doing some investigation that basins of Gower and Tolavana. And right now, there's no specific project that's out there. We felt it was important to earmark some dollars, similar to some of the other stuff that we've talked about. So when we do get that reporting in, which we have not yet, we have something earmarked if we need to have any improvements.
So that's at the treatment plant itself or somewhere else?
This would be in the Gower Basin area, so around like Pacific Pump Station and Tolavana.
Same question from water and wastewater pipe replacement stuff, is that in the same thing contract with?
Yes, yep.
Again, on page 72, the wastewater reserve, as I said earlier, just the 50,000 was coming into that. And then next is storm drain, which is page 75.
I don't think we have any other time to do it.
Yeah, the notable things up here is the portion of the back trailer that we split for storm drain.
And again, there is no projected increase for storm drain at this point in time. I believe we still have money that goes into the ending fund at the end of the year. Eventually, when we have larger, or projects, then we look at that rate increase. The renewal replacement on page 77, again, we're transferring 325,000 into the storm drain.
And can I ask a question, system development, because we've got a system development fee under.
Yeah.
Each of these.
Yeah, we'll cover the next.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we'll go to the system development fees, which are starting on page 68. Which is the water system development fees. And each one of these, we do not have specific projects for, but we just budget the entire amount currently for them.
So do we have any, Chris, do we have any, grant scheme or how that money will be spent on?
To my knowledge of the projects that we have, no, they're just replacement, because in order to use the SDCs, it has to be increasing capacity. So yeah.
So we have restrictions on how it gets spent.
Yeah, I will say that, I do utilize, water and wastewater SDCs, for, new connections to homes. So when those connections are made, that portion of the invoice that we get from, our excavation subcontractor, that gets coded to this SDC. So not large amounts, but decent. And I think just this last year, I at least had 3 or 4, or sorry, in the 6 months I've been here, I've had 3 or 4 new connection fees that we charge the contractors work in order to make the connection to this. But no major projects identified.
And council put a moratorium on increasing costs or increasing it this year, so it will be the same in 26, 27 as it was in 25, 26.
Yeah, thank you.
And so those are all actually 74 is the next one, again, very similar. Wastewater SDCs, again, just we put it all into we budget the entire thing in capital outlay. Last one, or 78 is the storm drain SDCs, again. Similar, and then lastly, parks SDCs is page 42, sorry, they're a little out of order.
Page 42, you said?
For page 42 for parks, same, again, same thing.
Before you go on for
Yep.
wastewater SDCs.
Yeah.
Do you recall where actual will be for 25, 26 versus our $220,000?
I do not off the top of my head, I actually have that number on Tuesday, but I can't. I think you're right, no, it was a higher number, I think it was 1 or something like that. Yeah, I think it's a higher number, it's gonna be, it's gonna be 2 costs, I think, 2 costs.
Before, I wanna ask one more question that came up about the water thing before we get too far away from it. So Elk Creek, we fixed their overpaying of the water rates, but we haven't done that to Shorewood.
Right.
So what are we doing with Shorewood? Is there a plan to adjust them back? Because aren't they paying 2x what everybody else pays?
Well, we're gonna, well, I don't believe it's quite 2x, it's not the same problem we had with Elk Creek. That was a big difference, but we're gonna reach back out to them, different companies, so, we'll reach out to them and see what they say, but I haven't reached out to them yet.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to know that,
Yeah.
we should leave that high.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go on.
Conversation
Yeah.
about.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
supposed to reach out to them.
Okay, you mentioned parks and species.
Yeah,
I was wondering, what qualifies for increasing capacity of parks?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I have that answer for you.
Can we make something besides just maintenance and?
I mean, a net new park. Seems like it would qualify. Expanding size,
More picnic tables or.
yeah,
Or.
Replacing structures and stuff, is that? or is that considered
My
maintenance?
understanding is it isn't, but again, I just kind of the rule that I've been taught is if it's a like for like replacement, that's not, you can't use SDCs for that, so,
What if you replaced it with a bigger unit?
right? Yeah,
Then
They could have more kids on it.
Okay, sorry, just something that.
Yep.
Was.
there's not a lot of money in there.
Recycling fund is the next one at page 16.
Yeah. Just like you said, I don't think we have any major changes here, we're $8,000 more than last year. It's probably for vehicle fuel and no projects identified either,
No additional projects.
No, there was a discussion at one point of me, changing the footprint around of how everything flows in there. Is that literally just taking time to do it, or is that?
Yeah.
That's not like an expense that you're gonna have to put up fencing or anything.
Yeah, I think I was gonna use the next fiscal year when those trailers get pulled out to kind of reestablish everything. I'm also coming back in July and talking about the hard to recycle box that we could get free of charge.
Is that this one?
Free of charge, so it's.
It's free of charge.
That's why I don't have the budget line item in here yet.
But it will still cost money to, some money to the city, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure. I'm getting more information on how often that gets picked up and I misheard during the presentation. I thought he said we actually get 2.5 FTEs for it. I was like, there's no way. He said 0.25 of an FTE, which is surprising. So apparently not only is the box free of charge and the pickups free of charge, but there may be some money that they give to us that could help again for 1/4 of an FTE.
Wow.
She
So,
did say that.
yep,
I thought you said we had to pay. No, that's, you heard right, that's the rate.
so he's, we're working together right now. We're gonna come back with all that information. But again, to my understanding, well, nothing's ever free in life, but we currently have a recycling team. So I'm hopeful that we can cover the use of that box as well. But yeah, to your point, I think there's a couple moving pieces there, so we kind of understand. But yeah, the expansion of recycling is something that's out there, but nothing I had enough confidence to put a number on and include for this next fiscal.
Can I ask another question about recycling?
Yep.
Does this consider adding recycling bins around town? So,
Sure, yeah, I don't think we can do that, the ecology can do that. You can't as a city, but there's like art out there.
but we can as a city, or we cannot?
And
Why?
That was my understanding, because ecology services this whole community. There was talk about ecology putting recycle bins down in the Coaster Theater parking lot, but I don't know whatever happened with that.
I can check the franchise agreement with them and ask them that question, but that would make sense because they are paid money to pick up recycling for all the customers that are in the franchise. And so if you start to put them out in the public and then somebody cancels their recycling and starts using the city's recycling because it's free, that could be an issue there. So I can check. the
Where
franchise.
residences don't have to pay for recycling. We only pay for trash,
Okay, well, then
Yeah.
that refutes my argument completely.
but.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just saying because I think that's an ask all the time, like, people are constantly, like, when I'm on my bike, or I'm starting now, it's summer, people are like, where are the second bins? And there is, you just send back to the site, it's part of their knowledge. And TLT funds could cover that if there was a cost, because it's directly related to tourism.
so,
Not as much as you would think.
It's not quite as clear as you.
Really?
Recology just recently put locks on the recycling bins at the businesses. And they did that because the tourists are just throwing their garbage in the recycling bins. And so, they're really cracking down on what is put in those bins. To the point that they're gonna go back and figure out who's violating the rules of recycling. Which business it is, if they can prove, then the business is gonna get charged, so. I don't think that they're gonna put any public recycling in.
That's what they own, like, it's.
The safer bet is that things go into the trash. It's unfortunate.
Different cities have, like, so for example, if you go to different towns, they have you know, whatever shape or size that they have in the public ways. And they have holes for cans, so that you can't put bags of trash down them, and they're locked down, or they have, you know, sizes for bottles, or they have sizes for cans, and it's for that reason, I'm certain. But I just think that this is a weird thing, that we're in 2026 and we don't have recycling.
Unfortunately, we don't have any options for, we really don't have any other option than recology here. And so, I mean, we pay exorbitant amount of money for this, for commercial garbage and recycling.
But I think other towns on the coast that use Recology have recycling.
Yeah, I could swear that seemed.
Well, and maybe.
But it would be worth investigating.
Yeah.
I can ask, yeah.
Okay,
It's probably more expensive, but that's,
Maybe.
like, I'm curious to know how much more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will find out.
I've always thought the recycling here was, you know, it's terrible.
correct.
You can't put in any plastic bottles unless the mouth of the bottle is smaller than the body of the bottle. I mean, it just, compared to most places I've visited, it's great.
And that's recology.
Yeah.
Okay, but we can.
Okay. All right. Roads, page 79.
Tolovana Beach Access Ramp, this is the Tolovana, emergency vehicle and ADA ramp. We've actually come to the end of our contract, with KPFF. We're at 60% design, with them. We've been investigating some grants, but we are not a good fit for either of them that we've come up with. So this is money that we've left in there in case a grant comes our way. But this is a project that we've decided to not actively pursue to get it the full rest of the way. I think based on loose estimates, this is anywhere from $300,000 to $550,000 to do the replacement of that. And I just felt with the staff that we have and the bandwidth and all the projects that are coming up, that likely the First Street Bridge, Magoose, those things would kind of drive. But that's again up to this committee. So I wanted to leave some dollars in there in case a grant opportunity comes our way and we want KPFF to jump on it.
Has there been an investigation of separating out the corrections or adjustments to the pedestrian ADA access there from the driving emergency access? Putting in, cause I know it seems like the ADA access is being held up by the whole project as a whole now. So if we don't go forward, we go on other projects, we still have that terrible zigzag thing that gets full of trees and everything.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to need to maintain that thing and, you know, every winter, we just wait for the logs to stop piling up on it and then go and do it again, and we've been doing that for a long time now, so, no, I haven't been presented with the idea of breaking that away from that project to do that undertaking. If you were going to handle that project, I would tackle them both at the same time, just because mobilization costs for contractors, things of that nature.
Okay.
So the lighting project, Eric, was a really tough one for me to wrap my head around. I did my best to include some money in there. There was kind of a request for some street lights over here, fixing the skate park, and tennis court lighting that's kind of just like flickering. The problem with that is these poles are rotten on top, and the contractor is really concerned about that. So you would likely do new poles, which are expensive. So there's a larger project there, and then additionally, there was a request for some globe lights on Gower Street.
Getting rid of the globe lights.
Getting rid of them. So I had Cannon Beach Electric give me some form of a budget of what we could accomplish there. So this is more towards like the the cost of doing the Gower, yeah, and not redoing all of the pole lights here.
Okay,
Again.
well, and when I brought that up, I was mostly thinking about that down there, but I know I've had complaints about these lights here being both inadequate and also excessive. At the same time, not lighting what they should be lighting, and then just putting light everywhere, just kind of, in both instances, both inadequate and excessive.
And Gower has its challenges as well, those are 14-foot poles, and so to find a light fixture. That's dark sky compliant, that doesn't do the washout lighting, that doesn't leave dark spots in between because of the spacing, so it's not perfect. Especially if you wanted to reuse those poles to save money, but I threw some money in there for that project, and I don't know what committee I would use to go through and get some good ideas for people and some cut sheets and kind of get that approved, but felt like something should go in there.
The lighting poles here, I mean, deferred maintenance of rotting poles doesn't sound. That's not even. Should we be replacing those poles?
I think there's a larger project in the future to replace these poles and potentially add additional poles in order to get more adequate lighting on the field side. I think there's a larger project there. But that's not included in this number, but
I think those are some things that we're talking about as far as beautifying town. I mean, these lights are excessive, and if, like Tim just said, if the poles are rotting, they're probably not safe. And they probably should be, do we add more money into the budget for that project? And is it something that can be accomplished? I think the answer is yes, we do. Yes. Yes, we do, yes, we can.
So what would it take to add that project?
Huh?
What would it take to add that, to replace?
without having some form of a design, I can't do that.
If we threw 100,000 at it.
It would be well north of $100,000 if we're replacing poles and light fixtures in here, well north, like
250?
you're getting closer.
I think you
So
do the
why
same,
don't
I think you do the same thing.
like we've done in the past with the pickleball and that kind of thing, is once you come up with a number, come back and.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but I think I agree with Tim. I mean, if the poles here are rotting, then we need to do something more. We need to have a plan.
Sure, I will just say that I believe that it's the tops of them that take the weather abuse and like where the actual fixture would connect, that's
So that
where
they're
we're
gonna
gonna.
fall
I'm
on
not-
somebody's head.
Yeah, personally, I'm not, I haven't inspected each of these poles out here, but I think the way that they creosote them and they're in the ground, I mean, they survive winter storms and stuff, but. Yeah, I'm not diminishing the fact that there's a larger project there, so yeah, Tim's recommendation is to throw a large number at it, and then once we find out what that looks like.
I think we do the same thing, we do the project, come up with what the project would cost, and then we'll bring it back to council. The council could do the.
And a challenge, if some people are saying they're too bright, then some people are saying it's not bright enough.
That's my concern.
Yes, so
You're gonna make
then
happen.
we would do then we'll just do we would
And that they would be dark sky.
yeah, same thing.
Yeah, but thank you for putting something in there for removing the, changing our place program.
Okay, last one from Chris, page 82, Bridge Reserve Fund, he actually mentioned it earlier today, so I'm not sure there's more he needs to add, but.
Correct, yeah, I was answering Richard's question, but this is the funding in order to, if a city needed to provide the funds just ourselves and we didn't get any more support from FEMA to continue and finish the design, get to a shovel-ready project.
You're still anticipating FEMA will come through with their dollars. This is a just in case.
I can't. I wait 2 months, they ask me to fill out another form saying I'm good for my 10% of the match. I fill that out within a day, send it back to them. I don't hear from them in another 2 or 3 months, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
It took us a long time just to get the reimbursement from this last one.
Right, well, how many months were we on?
Well, it was before you even started.
Yeah, well, so I think that the question here will be, at what point do we say, okay, let's just pay for this ourselves, so we'll talk.
So Chris, what's the timing? So let's say we do this, you get a shovel ready, how long does that take to get a shovel ready?
That's tough to say, but I can confidently say it should be ready for us to be in a really good position to apply for a brick grant of April of next year.
Okay, so we've got another year.
That's been the current cycle, yeah, I think we can do it before then, but on camera in front of everyone else, I'm gonna say that it's like,
Okay, and then the construction itself would be dependent on what kind of funds were available after that.
correct, yeah, whether a brick grant comes through, which would be great, this project is well suited for a brick grant. But yeah, if instead we decided to use general fund money to do so, then we could go from there. I don't know how long the retrofit of that bridge would take. I would imagine it would be a lengthy process.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Public Works. Do you have any more questions for Public Works?
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
There you go. Okay, let's check. So we now are to the general fund. We're 2 hours in.
You want to take a break? 5 minutes break?
Excellent. Okay, moving on, Chief Schultz and the police budget, which is on page 33. Take it away, Rob.
Thank you for all that came down to our open house last Friday. It was a great day to see all the support, and thank you for all your help and support that whole project. Right now, for personnel, we still remain full staff, which we've been fully staffed for a year, first time in quite a few years. My understanding, we have not been at full staff, a lot of turnover and trying to fill positions. At this point, see no changes in that for the foreseeable future. Under materials and services, the only increases that we're looking at is fuel. No surprise there, and then vehicle repair, mainly due to increased cost of tires and labor costs when we do take our vehicles in for repair. Under capital outlay, we're looking at purchasing an admin vehicle. This vehicle would be a hybrid vehicle, looking at trying to save fuel as much as possible. This would be used for training. Right now, the staff use their own vehicles to go to out-of-town training, and we're reimbursing them at the federal rate. This would help save some of that fuel costs for those folks going to and from training. The vehicle will also be used daily by admin folks to go down, get mail at City Hall, instead of using their own personal vehicles. And then starting next year, the parking aides will be using it during the summer to attach a bicycle rack to it and load up and come down and park downtown and do their patrol during the summer months. And if you look at the budget, the only new additions that we have in the line items is our solid waste removal and electricity due to being in a new building by ourselves rather than being attached to the city hall.
The new vehicle says the hybrid, is a plug-in hybrid?
No, just a gas hybrid.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have a really dumb question. We have, people who park illegally on our street regularly, where it says no parking here at corner. And so we've had a couple residences want to know if they could be deputized by you that issue parking.
Just call us, we'll come down. We have those whiz bang parking, citation machines. It'll take some time to write a parking ticket, so. Yeah, call us, we'll come down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Taking care. Okay. I'm not sure if you want me to talk about the life-saving, program. Mark won't be able to be here, but Jason from the fire department would be able to be here, but I think he's been planning on coming next week.
Yeah.
So we'll just have him come next week, life-saving.
Yeah.
Because they're asking for an increase, so I suspected that you would want to talk to him about it. Okay. All right, so now it is Andy with emergency management, page 36. Where's Andy? Where's Andy?
So sitting in for Andy, we have.
Okay, sitting in for Andy, I do not need the 0.5 FTE. Oh. Get him moving. All right, so Andy, emergency management, page 36.
You see everybody, hello. What's that?
You just hit the one. So.
Okay, alrighty, so, going through, my budget, basically, you'll see some increases and some decreases, I'll just highlight those. So employee readiness, I did increase that quite a bit, 7,000, to the tune of 7,000. Mainly because I'm gonna be outfitting new go bags and, doing annual training for some employees. I already did that this year. I believe I did 6 go bags for employees. So that is a significant amount to outfit that. I also increased that due to, my new vehicle I got last month. For maintenance and upgrades, I'm looking at upgrading some radio equipment and purchasing some stuff to make it a mobile EOC. To where if I'm on the road and an emergency happens, I have everything in my vehicle right there to handle that emergency, or just in case I can't get down to the new EOC down at the, wonderful police department that Chief just covered. And I'll see the volunteer insurance, things like that. They'll also cover my vehicle fueling. Cash site preparation, I do have a lot of plans this year, so I increased it, 10,000 to 50,000. So I'm working on a water purification system, smaller systems to be housed at each cash site. Basically, we think about like a suitcase, to where you can, where there's a water source, you can hook that up to the water source or bring it to a water source and actually purify water there. We do have a massive water purification system that's located up at the Whiskey cache site. But these are gonna be individual ones for each cache site, to where if we are trapped, if we're, at one area, we would have something like that. I do have some water stuff there, but that's the big increases for the water purification systems, as well as lighting and upgrades to each site. I lowered my EOP plan and website development. Basically, the only thing I need to do this next year will be a recovery plan, because I'm currently working on a new emergency operation plan, which should be done. We're reviewing that right now. And so the next step after we have that will be a recovery. Supplies, I'm always rotating through supplies, so I did increase that a little bit. Does anybody have any questions on those items?
I do, I have a question. Why did so just looking at the budget from 2024, 25 to then going to 25, 26. What was the big jump from 1,082 on cash site supplies to 20K? And then now to 25, so like what does that involve? I just don't know, so I'm.
That might have been because we didn't have, was that for my position up on there?
That was the 24, 25 would have been, yeah, because you didn't start it all.
I think the position was.
Yeah.
And so, as you can see, like 23, 24 is actually 36,000.
Yeah,
And then, my predecessor left, and then I didn't come in until November of 24, so just the budget wasn't there, nobody was using it. I believe, I'm not sure.
I think that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and then I was here in 25, 26, so I did that budget. And then, yeah, this year I increased it 5,000 because I'm gonna be rotating through several items, baby formula. A new water, so there's new water out there where I can buy canned water. Or like, I think of like a milk jug to where it actually lasts for like 10 years, rather than buying like just standard bottles of water, which I have to rotate all the time, so that's why I'm increasing a little bit, but. Yeah, I'm not sure about
the actual in 24-25.
So I just had like a logistics question on the semi-perishables, the food formula and stuff, the baby formula and stuff like that. Does that get donated when it gets close to its expiration? And then get purchased now?
Yeah, so whenever something is expiring, I know this last round, because the baby formula actually falls under medical reserve corps. That's their item, so I think it was expired.
Already expired.
It was already expired, yeah, so I'm actually in the process of purchasing it right now, cause it's only good for. It's a short-lived product, and so I know the medical reserve corps is trying to come up with another option to be able to offer that, but I think they've been unsuccessful.
Alright.
And so we just constantly have to rotate it, but if something is expiring, I try to donate it before it does, like I donated a lot of canned food items this last year that were expiring. But in regards to like food, I'm starting to just purchase nothing but MREs,
Yeah.
which are good for a shelf life of 25 years. And there are different versions of them to avoid the expiration of things like that.
Alright.
Baby formula, you get for you and think about it.
So in your budget, do you have grants or do you get other funding sources that help supplant some of these expenses, or is this just straight up coming from the city of Kennedy?
I do have grants that I apply to, mainly for like equipment, things like that, to Inspire grant. But for like food and water and things like that, there's not necessarily any grants that go towards that, so it's coming from,
Federal funding for emergency.
not for like food or water, and not that I'm aware of. But for like equipment and stuff like that, yes. Oh yeah, so moving forward, the only ask that I'm doing this year is a part-time emergency volunteer coordinator. For those of you who don't know about our emergency volunteer, our teams, we have the CERT team, Medical Reserve Corps, Disaster Animal Response Team, and then we have another one called CERC, and they're on radio. So basically, we are the largest volunteer team that I'm aware of. Currently, county doesn't have one. We haven't, like, on my list, we have about 100 active volunteers. Anywhere from 65 or about, consistent between all of them. So this position would be basically in charge of managing and expanding the city volunteer-based emergency response team. It's a beast of its own due to the sheer volume of amazing volunteers that we have. I'm super, super proud of what we have built. Technically it was built before me, but maintaining this program and expanding it and keeping people interested and keeping people trained and having that as a resource to the city is invaluable. Due to the fact that we are a small amount of city workers and an even smaller amount that actually live here in city limits. And so, I've seen firsthand when an emergency kicks off after hours and having to be one of two or one of three that have to wear 4 or 5 different hats. So having a trained and capable volunteer team or teams within the city is invaluable to us moving forward. And it simply was too large for one individual to basically harness with everything else I've been trying to do. So that's what I'm asking for. And that's really the only change from this year's budget, other than what I just kind of covered.
I have one other question. Again, it might be from my own education. Is everything completely good with our tsunami warning system? Does that fall underneath your?
That's all gonna be, yes, and everything's completely good. It's been fully upgraded. I tested the first weekend, or the first Wednesday of every month. I'm in the process of moving the control station from the fire department. So we have 2 control stations.
Right.
So, one control station will be at the fire department. It's a secondary control station, and the primary will be at the police department. And once I install that at the new police department, I'm just waiting on a few parts to hook up the antenna. I'll have the capability to remotely access that unit and basically initiate it from anywhere, anytime.
And that's the coastal outside alarm system? Is that?
Yeah, CALs, coastal outdoor.
Yeah.
Yep, but
And so the 10,000 that's in the budget is like for the sort of extraneous new stuff, just to get that all set and going, and does that count maintenance and all of that?
so that's what that is for, the 10,000, and so I originally, since it's a brand new system, I did have to spend some money on just like replacing batteries and things like that.
just the maintenance and cleaning, and so I do a lot of the maintenance myself, but I do have to buy parts. And a lot of it is like computer chips and stuff like that, so I like to have a contingency in there, like, hey, this actually went bad, I need to purchase another one.
Yeah.
So that's just routine maintenance and small parts, but
The upgrade request that you asked for a couple of months ago for hardwiring the ones in, because the solar wasn't keeping up, has that been completed?
So I'm currently waiting on Pacific Power. I basically follow up with them every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that has not been completed to my knowledge, unless it has and they haven't told me. But I've seen, I'm having issues with Pacific Power. And so I'm still waiting on them to fully do that. So right now they're solar, and we have no issue with that.
And do you have to bring a generator or recharge them after the test?
Negative, no.
Okay, so they're.
No, I've never had to do that, yeah. So solar just keeps up with it because they don't really draw any energy unless you're testing them, and so they just recharge themselves and so solar will be a backup once we actually get them to the AC now.
I'm really glad you're asking for, I'm glad that you're asking for the halftime FTE for volunteer coordinator, because I think it's really important, and it's been so spotty. I went through CERT training back on Rick Hudson and Chief Schermerhorn, and then since then, I haven't had a real retraining, I keep it up every few years and remember everything, and,
It gets tough, and then, so that's one reason for the ask is more consistency, more training, somebody who's dedicated specifically to that, because unfortunately, that
you can't do it.
on top of everything, yeah, and a lot of the stuff is after hours, on the weekends, and so.
Right.
It will be a huge increase to my department and to the community if we have that.
We've needed it for several years, so I'm glad you're doing that.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy, let's show up. All right. Now, it's time for Dr. Adams. We start with page 25, community development. And is upset that I didn't allow him to touch mine.
Yes. You can, they wouldn't let me do any slides. So I'm a little lost at sea. But anyhow, thank you all for allowing me to come back to Candy Beach. I love this community, love the passion in this community, and look forward to working with you guys on getting some projects accomplished, and I'll just kind of hit on some of those. Code rewrite is a major project moving forward, and with that in our legal fund is usually our biggest amount of funding. It's those professional fees that we pay out, and if I've reduced that, looking at last year's fundings for the two, and reduce that amount, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because as you guys know, if the word LUPA comes up, that can be a big hit on our budget. But that's part of that code rewriting project, is to minimize risk, and that's really my kind of incentive to get this project done in the next year and a half or so. And so then we have, to continue on that, we also contract out with Crest on a couple of things. One's for affordable housing and workforce planning assistance, and then also on the Ecola North Bay project, which they help with that work. Our other big projects moving forward, affordable workforce housing, that's going to include RV park or Southwind due diligence and planning. It's gonna include the Elk Creek Terrace rehabilitation project, and as you guys have mentioned, and other things, possibly some other, our other existing, projects, Shorewood or Sherwood? Yeah, and, then, the other big project moving forward, the reboot of our transportation system plan. That was kind of, I think when I left, it hasn't really been pushed, but I hear you on parking management and on
on other planning improvements that go along with that, because when we talk about trails and any of these other, bike lanes and ped, projects, those are all involved with rebooting that TSP, coming up with a process that works with our Public Works Committee and our Parks Committee, getting that to, planning, design review, and then the city council for approvals. So that's a whole new process. We've been working, kind of different departments, working on that plan, and hopefully we'll be bringing that forward the next month. Then our big ask is, of course, for the what I'm calling the building fund succession planning. Unfortunately, our building official is aging. I wish he wouldn't. I tried, but he is a, Jim, and for us, and he has worked for Manzanita, he's worked for Astoria, he's worked for Seaside. I think he's worked for pretty much every community in some fashion, and but we need to prepare, and so that's what I've asked for, and that's what we're planning to do with the Public Works. Manzanita did this as well. In-house and worked them into their building official role. I think it's a great model, and that's what we're hoping to do over the next few years with an in-house on that. We also have on the horizon the Nacoust Park planning. We've got possible UGB amendments, and if, depending on how South Point goes, for instance, or what we can do it on that, and possible rezoning as part of many of these affordable workforce housing things that we've talked about. So, that's kind of the big picture for us. Did I miss anything?
No, we should probably go to, so do you have any questions about the community development fund on page 26?
So-
Yes, I have a question.
On the consultant professional fees, we talked about that, and that actually should be split between consulting and legal fees. Because there's a good deal in there that went to
Bateman.
Sidell. Yeah, I was gonna try and say his last name again, but I'm not gonna do that. So I think that's a little misleading in the fact that it looks like we paid, or probably paid Herb Works a lot more money than we actually did. So, last year.
Yeah, we'll add a legal code to the planning budget, and that's where we'll charge those fees.
That's a separate line item.
Yeah, because I don't know why, but it's been that way since way before, but it should be legal fees.
And the legal fees are hitting community development because these are land use related.
Correct, yeah, correct.
And that's what it breaks out. That's what this breaks out.
That's what it is too.
Yeah, so anytime, we have a land use related issue, that's where we go.
It's a cart before the horse kind of thing, but the quicker we can get that code audit done, the fewer crazy stonewall kind of litigation matters we will undertake.
I would assume so, but that's the 62445 code, so that's where the Herb Works is.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the legal.
Right.
rights.
That's traditionally what's costs us the most is usually a Lumbo one. Well, I had a chart that I showed, we used to track, Jen and I used to track this granularity of Bateman, Sidell, our other legal, the city legal, and then other, what you're asking, for like other consultants. And we used to track that month to month, and yeah, you could just see when the Luba case came, it would triple, how much our normal.
Is this included in the $500,000 legal that we read about in Randy's work, or that's in addition to?
That's in addition to, because there's two spots that falls in right now, and this year it falls in the general fund, non-departmental, plus in the executive department. The executive department, that's like our city attorney, and that gets spread across all. So that's when Jody shows up, that gets spread across all departments, so everybody pays for that one. But the general fund is just strictly paying for the other litigation, and then community development pays strictly for the land use stuff.
So our real legal was more like 650.
If you, yes, if you were to add all, in the current year, this is also a very weird year.
And with this code work, I mean, all of our code work, there'll be funds coming out of Urban's work to actually draft a lot of that language, but then the other will come out of Faith and Sidell, which we review it.
Yeah, this may be an unanswerable question, but, if we were a bigger municipality where we had a prosecuting attorney, let's say, the prosecuting attorney would use, prosecutorial discretion on whether to bring cases or not bring cases. Who does that, if anybody, in the city right now? Does community development play a role on that?
You mean, so for instance, like a code enforcement type of issue, is that what you're asking for, like for, this kind, or a LUBA?
Yeah, let's say somebody built a wall that was in dispute about how tall it was.
Yeah, that's.
Who decides to bring that case?
City council, that would be.
City council decides.
Yeah.
No, city council doesn't decide it. It's a code enforcement.
Yeah, well,
We don't decide.
Yeah.
which Code enforcement issue.
Yeah, but I'm saying if it goes to say, to pursue something, yeah, it's, you know.
But what I'm asking, in the idea that in a different city, there would be prosecutorial discretion,
Yeah.
does that function exist here?
You're talking about the criminal court.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely not. I'm talking about code enforcement.
So, yeah, code enforcement type of issues, yeah.
So you would decide
Yeah.
if we should push this case or not push this case?
Yeah, exactly.
If someone's given a code enforcement citation and because they violated the code, whatever it said, and then they decide to appeal it or to not just pay the fine, that's what initiates a court hearing.
Yeah.
That is
exactly.
it. There's no prosecutorial
Right.
discretion or anything
Right.
in a code enforcement, and and there isn't in any other city either.
Right.
The prosecutor doesn't decide which cases. is going
Yeah.
on.
I think that the questioner is though, yeah, but then if we don't agree with that decision, it's up to us if we want to appeal that decision.
Right,
Right, and so that's not ours, that's you guys get to do that.
right,
We
but
don't do that.
we're just bringing it in front of
Yeah.
the court. It's the person who got the citation
Right.
decides to not just pay it, but to, challenge it.
Yeah.
And that's what initiates a whole court hearing.
Yeah. Now,
That's it.
and on LUPA matters, that's a big different animal in itself, is that, so, LUPA type of appeal, yes, the city will usually defend that position, but in a lot of jurisdictions, they don't. So, at least that's what goes by us in states, so.
So I-
have a question. Yeah. Tell me what BREST is.
That's, Columbia River Estuary, task force, study task.
And what do they use?
They're a regional planning organization, so they help, do planning support for us on certain projects, mainly affordable workforce housing, regional task force. And then they are, also do a lot of, like wetland studies and things like that. And so they help us in environmental, which is right now the Coal North Bank project, looking at options or solutions to, or helping that bank.
So they're more like a consultant.
Yeah, consult,
Okay.
and based on environmental type of issues.
Okay, what's the hazard mitigation? That's
Yeah, so that's part of that project, so, they work on that.
something,
Yeah.
the north end?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jen, 62,451, the consulting fee permits, it's down by 50% from last year. Is that because people aren't, cutting down trees?
No one there cutting them.
I believe that what they did, from my understanding, was when I wasn't here, when they were preparing to do that update or whatever to the tree ordinance, they put more in there thinking that they made it.
Yeah, that was what Steve did. Yeah, so he bumped it up because that tree ordinance was going forward, so he thought there was gonna be more in there, yeah. Okay, any questions on community development? All right, how about building fund, page 50? This is where we added the halftime person again. Remember, it's split halftime between building fund, halftime between general fund.
I think that's a great model, page.
Okay.
Keep going forward with that.
Keep our fingers crossed. Okay, and then, the last one for Jeff is the Affordable Housing Fund, which is, page 52. And you'll notice, in this one, this is where we get the, $1 million transfer in. It's always been, again, it's always been the Affordable Housing Fund. I'm happy to rename it the Housing Fund if you want me to. I know people have brought that up. A couple of things, we have due diligence for the Southland properties located in here, 75 grand. And then also 300,000 is earmarked for the Elk Creek Terrace project. What I have heard back from Elk Creek is that their grants will be in at the end of this month. Is what I heard back from Jamie and Dan last week.
Submitted or don't
I believe they're just submitted. I didn't think they heard we're gonna hear from them.
So when do they think they're gonna?
I thought they said that they were gonna hear from them and, they were hoping to start construction in September is what I believe is what they
But if
said.
they don't get those grants, then what?
Then they're probably gonna come back, would be my guess. Yeah.
So we don't want to earmark anything in case they do.
Well, I think right now, I mean, basically, we have in the city program, we have $1 million. So
Is the 300,000 to come out of the,
it'll come out of the $1 million.
you know, my suggestion is we put $100 million in there. I really think we have to put our money where our mouth is in this program.
And that's what we have budgeted for this year,
Like,
to put another $1 million.
What's that?
To put another $1 million.
So I've got
I'm talking about additional.
In addition.
So
because
that
then it
one
would be
additional.
Because it only be $700K and some $800.
$18 million bucks a piece. You know? I'm talking about affordable housing.
I know, but you said 18 million we need to spend,
And
Richard.
I think we need to put $2 million in there this year instead of $1 million. And I think we need to have somebody in the city, I don't know who it is, but somebody has to be an advocate for this. The last time we had any traction at all with affordable housing, when Mike Benefield was on the city council, he took that program on. And he had a program to add 3 to 5 units to the RV park. At the last minute, the state disallowed the units he had planned for there. Since then, nobody's carried that ball. And the city, if we really wanna put affordable housing on the map, we need to put the money and we need to spend the energy and time to do it. And I think now is the time to do it.
I agree. I think that's a good plan.
I agree.
Just
I'm on board with that.
And then, and then if something happens with the affordable housing that we do have, we'll have money, help them out.
And I think, it's a matter of if we wanna buy land, or if we wanna use city land, but the program just needs to move. I think now's the time to start.
I'm not in disagreement at all. I misunderstood what you said initially. I'm gonna go back to the name of this fund. And I really think that calling it the Affordable Housing
Let's
Fund.
just call it housing.
I can just call it
Yeah.
out.
Housing.
Yeah, we're gonna change it.
I'll just call it out.
Okay.
Because affordable has all those significances, federal.
It feels like it's precluding.
Or just limiting us unnecessarily. Yeah.
Richard, I kind of like your idea of putting a part of the FTE or something like that, rather than a consultant. Have somebody who's working for us and can report to us and move the ball, forward.
Can
It
I,
would make a ton of sense.
I'd be happy to at least bring back something to you guys, on that note. Because I had been talking with Crest, about this since we started with regional housing task force. And my idea was to, in agreement with Clatsop County, to have a housing official that would work on this. And I know that they had Alyssa as the housing official, and she is no longer, and they have not replaced Alyssa, so I would be bringing that type of expertise is what we need, and, I'd be happy to kind of bring something back.
Great, yes.
Somebody, you need a partner, somebody to make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on?
Are you sure we can't get 6 million?
What's that?
Can't get
No, no, you already given up, that gosh, lost FTE.
Okay.
Another
Thank
million
you.
here, another million there.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, because there's another million proposed. I think, speaking of just another million, a million on top of what was discussed in March.
Correct, so what you want me to do, or what I believe I heard the direction was, that I'm taking, instead of transferring in 1 million, I'm transferring in 2 million.
Yes.
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 Is that what I heard?
Yes. So that it'll be a $3 million balance.
It will be,
There's already one, and you're adding 2 more. Is that correct?
yeah, so yes,
So that the 300 don't have. So
yeah, so yeah,
So it'd be a $2 million transfer this year.
it'll be a $2 million transfer in 26, 27.
is it worth spending another 30 seconds on the idea of a partial FTE, or you'd rather come back with that?
I think
You said.
that plans, yeah, I mean, that's my recommendation of it all. Okay, I heard that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, excellent. Good work. So let's see what we got. We have. Okay. Probably get through these next 2. All right, Haystack Rock Awareness Program, Lisa Page. So we.
Patiently waiting.
Yeah, page 19. Oops. 2021. Page 4, all right, here goes, fire away, fire away, fire away.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. As you know, I'm a freshman this season, even though I am technically legacy at 24 years. So, please, as Chris said, softballs. Pretty much nothing's changed except for the most important salaries and wages, or part-time salaries and wages. As you know, my team goes out from President's Day weekend until the end of November, and we're there for almost every road type. So with increased popularity, including over 200,000 influencers from TikTok and Instagram alone this year have boosted Haystack Rock. So when visitors come to the community, they think of Cannon Beach, they come Haystack Rock, not only for the puffins, but also for the intertidal creatures. So we offer free programming daily through that time frame. Our goal for the rock and its inhabitants is to continue to thrive for the benefit of our local community and out of area visitors, which in turn become a direct correlation for your economic success. So, any questions about my budget?
Is it enough?
No, it's never enough. I mean, how does city for? You know, unlike public works or other departments, it's very static. With my program, because it's nature-based, is incredibly dynamic. So obviously, I'm always gonna need more staff. This year, I'm currently down about 4 staff, so.
So can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
Your personnel is what, it's your 26, 27 is like $500,000. What's your ratio to volunteers to staff?
So that is an excellent question. About 5 volunteers to 1 staff member.
So how many total staff do you have though that are full?
13, oh, not full time, they're capped out, so they're all seasonal staff. We have 13, so they're capped out at 500 or 600 hours.
So you have 13 staff, it's a seasonal program, and how many volunteers do you have?
Right currently, that I can count on 25.
So I'm just, this is my education, so thank you for answering that. It seems strange to me, just, we're going through all the other departments, that HVAC seems to have kind of the majority of staff of all the city programs. And it's a seasonal staff, and so I don't understand why you don't have more volunteers and less staff.
That is an excellent question. Volunteers cannot be scheduled or do jobs of the staff, they're supporting personnel. So, and especially in this economy, trying to get a volunteer that's now had to take on contract jobs that might have been retired. Now, I can't rely on that person. We have programming day in and day out. And it's based on the tide. So if I have a negative tide, I need 5 bodies for sure. From, let's say this morning, I had 4 staff that were scheduled. It was just 2 of us. 1 got sick, the other one hurt, injured herself. So luckily it was me and another staff member, a legacy staff member. And we were able to do it only because it was a 2-hour shift. If that were a 5-hour shift or 7-hour shift, there is no way I could have done them for 2 people.
So but how many people, like in a season, not how many people come to Haystack Rock or how many people are on the meeting?
Yeah.
But how many people interact with Haystack Rock Awareness Program?
Oh, hundreds of thousands.
But do you keep track of?
Yes.
those?
Yes,
That actually interact with Haystack
Yes.
Rock, not just show up at the rock, but
Yes.
interact.
yes.
Statistics, they actually.
Okay, no, I'm
No, excellent question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we keep, meticulous statement.
What were you gonna say?
I wanna chime in really quick.
Sure.
Does that 13 employees include you as a full-time employee?
No,
Okay, so, and I wanna clarify something for her. I'm not begrudging your conversation with her at all, but she has 13 less than 1/3 time employees. So that equals 2 and a quarter FTEs.
Sure.
So she
I get it.
really doesn't have, I just wanted to clarify that. Assumed you probably got it, but I wanted to clarify for everybody that even though she says she has 13 employees, she really doesn't all year. And from what I understand, is it about half of those employees that are capped, they're all capped at the 600 hours, but about half or so of those employees are not eligible for PERS.
correct.
And so, I wanted to clear that part.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, just because I was a staff member when I first moved here, and then I became a volunteer. And it is so difficult to get good volunteers who are willing to come out on a regular basis. People come out And they think, oh, you know, it'd be fun to volunteer on the beach, and they come out like on a Saturday when they have some free time. And then the next week they have something to do, so they don't volunteer, and it's just, it's so difficult to get people who are regularly willing to work for free, you know, and show up on a regular basis. Yeah, and then they have to show up for refugee or, you know, it's really hard. And I think it's gotten more difficult.
Is it difficult because of personnel issues, or is it difficult because of, I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's not hard to get a job or hard to volunteer, or that we don't have all of those problems, they all exist, that's true. I'm curious to know, when we're talking about, we're scrutinizing other budgets, we're looking at everybody and just asking questions about.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun the first couple times. It's demanding. It's less fun, you know, it's more demanding and you get really tired of talking to all these people and, you know, and telling them.
The same thing.
Not to go or not to go rock or, you know, it seems like it's gonna be a lot more fun than it actually is. It's really hard. You've gotta be alert, you've gotta be nice to everybody and.
Okay, excuse me, but we've got like 10 minutes and, if we have an answer to the question, I mean, a solution, I think that would be great. Otherwise, you've got one more to get to.
Does she need more money and
That's what we need to know.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
So what would it be?
Or you wanna come back next
You wanna
week?
come back with
You come back.
Yes, you make your, not put you on the spot for that one, that's a tough
After you talk
one.
about finance, correct?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go back. Yeah.
All right, we can push through. We have one more real quick. We can get through the farmer's market real quick.
Yeah,
then we can-
okay, but you're gonna come back with what you need, okay, that's, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Tracy? All right, last one for today, page 21/22, farmer's market. Tracy, take it away. Talk a little bit about your program, start the program up, you got
Yeah.
a couple minutes.
Okay, we are really excited to be back with the farmer's market. You know, we kind of last year, endured the heaviest part of the construction and it didn't really seem to affect us, as much as it could have. We were able to use Starlink to get internet. The noise seemed to be outside of the hours, changing the hours seemed to work out well for my vendors. We didn't really see a decrease in numbers. Parking, always an issue, no matter what, it's unfortunate. But we did work with the Legion, and we were able to park cars there, and the History Center allows us to park cars there. I often drive by, cause I'll go drop my stuff off that I bought at the market, and I don't see anybody in that parking lot, so it's empty, cause they're closed on Tuesdays, so. Yeah, we have some fun things planned, we're still working with the school, the academy, so, and we are working with 4-H this year, so, anyway, no. So.
Farmer's market.
Oh, it's fun.
Okay, get to it.
All right.
All right,
Nice
thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Tracy.
I think that's it for today. Next week, so let me recap real quick, and make sure I heard. So we're gonna increase $5,000 for the library. We'll have 200,000 for parks M&S, adding 1 FTE. We're gonna increase the housing transfer by $1 million. And Lisa will come back, with any additional requests. And did I miss anything
I
else?
think we had 150 for a person in parks.
Right, that's the part one FTE in parks.
Okay.
It's only like $150,200.
Yeah, 200,000 for M&S in parks and then 1.0 FTE, so I'll run those what those numbers are.
So a question about the library, are we gonna get some justification why?
Yeah, I thought I sent out the letter, they sent me a letter, so I'll send out a letter to the council and the budget committee to graduate. And I'll let them. Yeah, that's all.
Thought they'd been there forever.
They've been at
Same
20,
number.
they've been
for a
at
long
20
time.
for a
Yeah.
really long time, so that's where it
I was
caught me off guard, that's why they plugged in 20 grand and I'm like, oh yeah. I
Electricity
forgot
goes,
that.
a lot of things change, right?
Yeah, so.
Lots of things have changed in the last year.
You said, we're just adding an additional million to house.
So it'll be up to, it'll be $2 million transfer. So it'll be so right now I have in the budget 1 million, it'll be a $2 million transfer in the And I'll rename the fund house.
Right, and we spent some money.
And you spend some money today,
Yeah.
very proud of
And
you.
we still save some, we have to save some.
And still, yeah.
Tomorrow we can spend 16 million.
No.
Discretionary, you always spend it.
They do good.
I think we're gonna do our,